Maintained eye contact. How many people do we meet in New York? I mean, eye contact is something New Yorkers suck at anyway. I mean, everyone's. I mean, you can go into a place and you can, like, you know, ask for help at any number of stores or whatever, and the person doesn't even look at you. It's a dying art. Eye contact is. So, what if we started there? If we're going to create an environment, if we're going to go above and beyond for the men and women who we're serving, so that we can create an environment that is conducive to respect, I think we can start and take some tips from some interview techniques that Business Insider talks about. The other thing I would like to make a point of is saying that help, if you're going to help someone, it always starts with hello. Like I said, I mean, my experience with Oscar was not that we said hello and then I invited him to live in my basement. That's not how it went. That's weird. Okay? Boundaries are healthy. You can pick up a book at Barnes & Noble by, is it Dr. McLeod or something? Like, boundaries are a healthy thing. This is free of charge. Boundaries are healthy things. And that's included with our relationships with the men and women that we're serving. It's good. It's healthy to have boundaries. So when you're engaging people, and start off with hello. Start off with something a little more low-key. Small talk is a great way to start. Asking people about their life, asking people about what their story is, asking people to share, and then sharing yourself, giving, again, appropriately. You don't need to give anyone your address. You don't need to give anyone your cell phone number, social media. You don't need to do that. Because again, boundaries are healthy. Honestly, there are some people I work with, and this is being recorded so I'll get in trouble, who maybe on social media I don't connect with so much. That's not totally true, I connect. But I'm just saying, the point is that sometimes we even overly connect with people who we don't. We have boundaries in our personal lives, but we don't have boundaries for our lives when we're serving people. I've seen volunteers who serve with us like, hey, I was friends with this guy I met on the street on Facebook. I'm like, that is a horrible idea. I'm just saying. So boundaries are super important. Because again, it's relationship, right? It's about relationship, and standard operating rules of relationships apply. That's really important that we remember that. The other thing is when you're saying hello, again, you're greeting the person, you're not grilling the person. Right? Like another thing I've experienced with homeless services in general, again, not unique to New York, but homeless services in general, is when you walk in off the street, the person says, typically, what do you want? What do you want? What are you here for? Like, again, we're treating the person like they're a nuisance. Or we're treating the person like we're in a hurry. We gotta move this along. And the goal, it seems, for a lot of organizations that serve among the homeless community, is their goal is to be efficient with their process, and they prioritize process over people. So it's, what do you want? Instead of, how are you? Or, what are your needs? Like, what can I do for you? How can I help? Again, this is common customer service stuff that we know in any other industry, except when we start serving homeless people, somehow it just flies out the window. Because we get frustrated and impatient, and we think this person doesn't have the ability to maybe do any better. I don't know what the honest, deep-rooted issue is, but we're judging the person so we don't treat them, like a human being, maybe. I'm guilty of it. So this isn't me just, saying that this is about the culture that we create. So establishing trust, right? One of the things that I find, if you create an environment where everything is set up, if you're thinking if you're treating the guest like a paying customer, you will then actually get a different environment in those organizations where you're serving. Right? There are people who have legitimate mental health issues, and there are people who legitimately come in angry and legitimately come in frustrated. And they have more often than not, I would argue, very legitimate reasons for being that way. They didn't just wake up angry. They didn't just wake up and decide that they're going to be a jerk that day. In fact, I have found that most of the people I've experienced who are angry are actually this close to being very sad. And if you can push past the anger by being patient and compassionate and empathetic, you will often get to the sadness very quickly, and the anger will dissipate, and you will actually have a very meaningful experience. It's not always the case, but it's certainly worth the effort. And I can tell you that the environment you create in terms of the stress level, the engagement, the pressure, like in terms of even like the line, how you people come in, how people go out, where you have things set up, how you give things away, all of this stuff, it's conducive to an environment that will either lead to fights and stress and frustration and anxiety, or if you can do an intentional job of seeing each person that walks in the door as a customer, as a paying customer, as someone who's valued, and if you're a follower of Jesus, as someone who's made in the image of God, and who's someone for whom Jesus died, and that's someone who I need to care for and love, if that's the case, then the environment we create should reflect that, and I can almost guarantee that that will lower the temperature in the room. And as people walk in, they will feel it. And this is something that I've seen over and over again with our outreach. It's like little things like placement of the tables. Like when we have our bus pull up, we pull up on the sidewalk, we park, we open the side of our bus opens, we put up tents. But you know what we don't try to do? We don't try to put tents right where the food window opens up. We try to put tents on this side of the bus and on this side of the bus. Because walk space is important. Someone walking through our outreach, if they can't get through because there's people just standing in the way, it will escalate the temperature in the environment. People will be frustrated, people will get angry, and we'll have a more stressful situation. So where we place the tables matters. The stanchion is a beautiful invention. Now that you guys go to a bank, you know what a stanchion is? I didn't before I started working at NYC Relief. A stanchion are those line makers. Like you put them at a bank, they're like magic. I had no idea those things were so powerful, but if you put them up, all of a sudden people know where they're supposed to go. And people are like, great, there's space to walk. It's amazing. And it's a miracle. The stand, whoever invented the stanchion, if you're in the room, bravo. Bravo. Because but again, it's not about the stanchion itself. It's about the environment that you're creating. Again, I'm not talking about just making lines and stuff. I'm talking about the flow of people in and out of the environment that you're serving. And it's absolutely critical to lowering the frustration, the anxiety, the stress. Again, can you imagine like surviving? I mean, the other thing that I've learned over the years, and I can't reference this one either, I'm realizing it now that I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing how bad I am at this. But the average, like people who are experiencing homelessness don't sleep that much. They just don't. Sleep deprivation it's like under the Geneva Convention, it's like a torture technique. Like sleep deprivation is I mean, my daughter didn't sleep through the night until she was 4, okay? It's torture. Like I can also tell you that when I wake up at 2 in the morning and my 3-year-old, who is my firstborn daughter, who I adore, but at 3 in the morning, when she's standing 3 inches from my face and asking me for a drink, I am not my best self. And there are some violent thoughts that go through my mind in that moment where I have to really cling to the love of Jesus to not kill her. And I have a very warm, comfortable bed to sleep in. So if you think about it, the people that we're serving, the people who are experiencing homelessness, whether they're sleeping in a shelter or where there's lots of other people sleeping around them who are noisy, lots of other people who are maybe upset and frustrated, so they're keeping them up. I mean, it's like sleeping in a shelter is like sleeping with 100 other people, just like, or my daughter, she snores too, so like sleeping with 100 other 4-year-olds, right around, like in terms of like waking up, moving around, it's hard. So you're not sleeping well, which means that you're tired all the time, which means you're not your best self. Which means that when they encounter you, or they walk into your organization, or your church, or your outreach program, or you meet them on the sidewalk, and they're a little frustrated and stressed out, you can rest assured it's probably not about you. Okay? It's probably not about you. And the other thing, not to make a too fine a point about this, but if you're going to create an environment where people are engaged with dignity, I want you guys to think about this. The difference between fast food and fine dining. Okay, and I'll even stretch fine dining to include chain restaurants that advertise during the Super Bowl. Think about fast food versus all of them. Think about the experience that you have walking into a fast food joint, and then think about the experience you have walking into a fine dining establishment. There's a world of difference in terms of how you experience that whole environment. And it's all intentional. And it has everything to do with the value that that place puts on the customer. And it has the value that puts on the experience. So even just something as simple as having someone at the door to greet the person as they walk in. Like that's this is something some of you have heard me say many, many times, but for the love of all good things, please don't put your grumpiest staff member at the front door. Like if someone's having a really bad day, they probably shouldn't be the first point of contact for someone walking in who's sleep deprived and really angry and desperate for a meal. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for conflict. And you're asking for a first impression that you'll end up playing catch up. You'll spend the rest of the time trying to overcome that first impression. Going back to what I said about first impressions. And then in terms of helping people understand what services are being offered, this is something that at a restaurant, you get a menu, the person walks up, says, hey, here are your options. And the fact is that if you're going to really give someone dignity, if you're going to offer a dignified experience, if you're going to have an environment that cultivates dignity and allows for a deeper level conversations, you need to give people choices. Because one of the things, have you guys seen the movie Time Out of Mind with Richard Gere? Have you guys watched that? Yeah. It's fascinating movie. And even just the research that you can do on the filming of the movie is fascinating. But one of the things that I thought the movie really communicated well was the reality of the experience of homelessness that tells you that you have no voice. The experience of homelessness that tells you that your opinion doesn't matter. Where you are moved from point A to point B, you are herded from this place to that. You are told what you will get, when you will sleep, when you will wake, when you will eat, when you will leave, when you will come, when you will shower, when you will leave. I had one guy who told me one time in the street, he's like, I'd rather be in prison, because at least in prison, when I don't feel safe, they can move me to another location. He was like, he was having trouble with a guy in the shelter he felt unsafe and he couldn't get anywhere because he was stuck at the shelter. So he was like, he couldn't get moved. But being told over and over again what to do, where to go. Imagine what that does to your state of mind in terms of what you're willing to do about your own life. I mean, this idea that we can help people pick, I've heard one person say at one point, you pick yourselves up by your bootstraps, but you have no boots. Like, what are you supposed to do? And the only boots you have were given to you by someone who told you will wear those boots this way. Like, the dignity of choice, and it can be simple things, right? Choice can be as simple as you can go this way or you can go that way. You can have this color or you can have that color. You can have this meal or you can have that meal. This is the dignity of choice is a powerful thing. So in your environments, in your own organizations, in your churches, as you're serving men and women who experience homelessness, the more choice you can offer people, the better. Because it will be a complete shot across the bow to the common experience of powerlessness. And everything you'll do, every choice you give someone will actually empower them to start to believe that they can make choices again and they can have some say-so over their experience, over their situation. And that's just a reality. But it doesn't happen accidentally. It really doesn't. I mean, it's so easy, again, to get stuck in this idea that they get what they get. Right? That's all we have, that's all you get. I mean, and if you can put, I have irritated more volunteers. I've had this situation where I walk into the room in our base, and these lovely, well-intentioned, beautiful human beings are putting brand new socks into a bin to give out at our outreach, because socks are a really helpful piece of equipment for someone who's in the street. But they're all one color. They're like all black, which may seem fine. Again, they're all brand new, they're all high quality, they're all durable, that's great. But I'm like, hey, I need you to actually empty out half of those and put in a different color. And they're like, oh, fine. It seems so pointless. Why bother? They're just new socks. Yes, they're just new socks. But guess what? The experience of being able to say, you know what? I don't know if I want white or black. That experience, the experience of choice that is transformative. It's not the color of the socks. And if we can understand that everything we do is creating an experience, is creating a message, everything that we do sends a message. You are this valuable. You matter this much. I am going to the trouble to give you this option. This is key. This is why sometimes, again, the color that you give away in terms of the socks that you distribute is it's not about the socks themselves necessarily. It's about the option, the choice of being able to choose. Do I want this pair or do I want that pair? Because maybe that day that might help someone start. It's like the momentum of being. I don't know if any of you guys have ever gotten sales training. I was in sales for a number of years, and one of the things they always say is you want to get people in the momentum of saying yes. You know, you like having fun, don't you? Yes. You like it when people think you're good looking. Yes. You like it when you have things, done a certain way. Yes. You like to pay $400 for what I'm selling. Yes. It's getting someone in the momentum of, oh, I have a choice. I have a choice. I have a choice. I have a choice. Because then if you're actually saying, yeah, would you like to go to detox or not? Would you like to give the shelter another try or not? Would you like to maybe let me store some of your things somewhere else so you're not carrying around 100 bags or not? You have choice. You're not stuck in the momentum of this situation. So I think the dignity of choice is absolutely a huge, the expression beggars can't be choosers? Like, that's a cliche. And I gotta tell you, I believe that cliche more than I would like to admit. I'm guilty, going back to my original, the comment I said in the beginning about sometimes those of us in the service industry sometimes have our own prejudices and stuff that linger on. I think beggars can't be choosers is one of those things that beggars can't be choosers. Bummer. Sorry, beggars can't be choosers. But here's the thing, if we could give beggars help beggars be choosers, maybe they wouldn't be beggars for as long. Maybe we can eliminate some of the beggars by the need for begging by offering choosers, or helping beggars be choosers. Maybe that should be a better way to put it. So that's why I think the experience that we create in terms of how we serve is really important. Again, I'm going to pause here. I've been going for a long time. So, yes?
When you were talking about, how you approach people and so forth. And then you said something about asking them how they got there, how they got here, or tell me your story. I've done that. And I've been totally pushed back. What am I doing wrong?
Again, that situation is I like the expression I heard someone say once, where if you've met one homeless person, you've met one homeless person. So I haven't the foggiest idea what you're doing. Maybe that person was just having a really bad day. At the same time, I would say what I've found, I've had people respond aggressively and hostilely, like, hey, and I have immediately pivoted to myself. So I think sometimes we, when we're doing outreach and when we're serving men and women who experience homelessness, sometimes we feel like, okay, I'll speak for myself. I sometimes feel like I'm being selfish by talking about myself, but I think that actually can be a helpful thing for somebody, because then they can see that you're not trying to fix them and you're not trying to change them or tell them what they should be doing or tell me how you ended up homeless. There's a world of difference between tell me your story and tell me how you ended up homeless. Again, the way we approach the conversation matters, the words we choose matter. So I couldn't tell you, you may have done absolutely nothing wrong. That person may have just had a really bad day and responded negatively. I would say that I have, you know, if you go out on the highway right now and honk at the wrong person, you may get a similar response. So that's not unique to homeless people either. People have bad days, people respond badly. I figure there's just as many people who are doing perfectly well who are jerks as there are who are in the street. And the proportion is probably the same. Actually, probably less for the people in the street. I don't know if that's helpful, but again, I think telling me your story, I think you can start by saying even, here's my story. I'm from so-and-so. I tell people, I grew up in Africa, which is, it's not a lie, I actually did. Grew up in Africa. And people look at me and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, no kidding. And then I start speaking French with them or something, and they're like, wow, you're not kidding. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't lying to you. I actually did grow up in Africa. And they're like, you're African American. I'm like, no kidding. And then now I'm like, so tell me about you. Oh, you wouldn't believe it, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm like, you're, you know, and then, so again, depending on how you go about it, talking about yourself can actually show that you're genuinely interested in a relationship. It's not a means to an end. Did someone else have, yeah?
I think sometimes people have trauma they experience in their youth, and so, you know, you have to tread carefully.
Yeah.
You know, I don't see that on that list, but it's something that
Yeah.
I, you know, from being on the street.